Yokoso minasan, my name is Jared and welcome to the first episode of Anime School of Business. Now, if you're anything like me, you already know that the anime medium is an incredibly diverse medium with themes and topics and genres that live television just kind of struggles to cover as well. Now, in this series, my goal is to show you how you can empower yourself in the world of business using management traits, leadership skills that are taught to you by the world of anime, some of which might just surprise you. Hopefully after these first few episodes, you'll gain a little more appreciation for your favorite anime, but also more self-confidence for yourself in the business world, because I truly believe that anime can make you a more effective manager. Now, let's get to our first lesson. And of course, the dress code for this one is nerd casual. I think it's time you blow this thing. Maybe get everybody in your stuff together. Okay? 3, 2, 1, let's jam. It is no coincidence that Cowboy Bebop should be the first episode of Nerd Casual's Anime School of Business. For me, it was the series that set the hook in my soul for this great art form, and it's my personal favorite series to date. Bebop follows the adventures of a ragtag bounty hunter group Spike, Jet, Faye, Ed, and Ein through a diverse world with a subtle underlying story loosely tying the series and characters together. But it tells the story in bits and pieces over the course of their everyday life. With a cast of well-rounded and deep characters and a killer musical score, it's no surprise that it's widely considered one of the greats. Now, many thematic and philosophical analyses have already been done on this masterpiece series by much better YouTube creators than myself. And undoubtedly, we're going to touch on some of the same gems that other commentators have identified within the show. But let's take it a step further, and let's connect the wisdom of Cowboy Bebop to your everyday life in the working world. Here are 3 management lessons in Cowboy Bebop that can make you a better leader. Our first management pearl of wisdom comes from our main man Spike, who in episode 8, Walter Venus, drops this knowledge bomb on an unsuspecting pickpocket who, unfortunately, happened to pick the wrong pocket.
どこにも力なんか入れてない。お前の無駄な力を利用しただけだ。力の流れをコントロールするんだよ。そのためにはどんな動きにも対応できるように全身の力を抜いて、そう、水みたいになるってことだ。水？そう。水はどんな形にもなれるし、ゆっくり流れることも激しく打つこともできるだろう。
わかったようなわからねえよな。
Now, it's pretty amazing that so early into the show it's already sharing this level of wisdom. But before we explore it, I'm only slightly embarrassed to say that I actually used this line in a college graduation speech, of all places. But I was pretty proud of those in the crowd that actually understood what it was from. You know, anime wasn't as popular in the Midwest in the early 2000s. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the philosophical and Jeet Kune Do Zen nature of what he's talking about, but I can tell you that it really applies to management well, in particular, this one way. You know, upper management in particular is a pretty odd role in many ways. And here's a secret from someone who has been in a mid and upper management position for over 13 years. You don't technically do hardly anything, but you do influence everything. Now, that lack of a daily schedule structure is kind of an odd thing. Many of your employees' days are fairly routine. They come to work, they do various reports and tasks that they do every day, and then they go home. Maybe some of you feel this is where you are today. But the higher up you go, the more you disconnect from the regular daily tasks, and instead you work for the team and the strategic direction of the business, not for the tasks themselves anymore. So here's the management skill that Spike's philosophy correlates to, and it's an important one: time management. Now, time management becomes the death of many upper managers because they cannot flex their schedules to whatever the day brings them. Instead, they're trying to stick to these rigid goals that they set for themselves. You know, in fact, in a 2019 study, it suggested that the average employee spends 2 hours per day recovering from distractions. That's crazy. But in most businesses, like for me in the hotel industry, your office is a revolving door of various middle managers, line staff, superiors coming to you with questions, new projects, problems, guest complaints, building defects. It could be anything. None of it can be predicted 100%, but suddenly 10 hours pass and you didn't get anything on your to-do list done. Now, this is management, but it's time management. But Spike gives us the answer, and it's a frame of mind. The key to time management is to be like water. If a large stone falls in a stream, the water does not stop, get stressed, complain to their coworker or at the rock itself. It flows around it. It finds a new path. It moves on. Water moves slowly when it can, and it moves very quickly and deliberately when it has to. So should you as a manager. The first person that comes into your office may be a panicked line staff that needs your help right away because a guest has been waiting for 10 minutes for resolution and no one is there to help them. But as soon as you finish that, the next manager comes in and they're bringing an issue that could be something way more serious, like a sexual harassment claim in your bar last night, for example. These things actually happen. The pace of how you handle those two issues are very, very different, and your tone, your actions have to match them accordingly. Drift without effort one moment and pound down in a torrent. As a manager, you have to adapt to the situation while still being calm, composed, and moving toward your ultimate goal, the success of the business and your team. If you go into a day with a rigid set of expectations, you may get thrown off and even frustrated at the interruptions. And that's where many managers fail. To be in control of your time, you must not let interruptions derail you, but be like water and flow to the next best path, always moving toward your goal, just like Spike. Now, our next business lesson comes to us from Spike, Jet, and Faye throughout various points of the season. Arguably, it could be considered one of the main themes of the show overall. Now, this lesson is related to time management, but it actually is better applied to conflict management. Let's take a look.
俺たちから持ち逃げした金はみんなカジノで吸ったと。
金は天下の回り物って言うでしょ。
俺が帰ってきたらその時計だけが残っていた。たった一言、さよならとだけ書かれた手紙と一緒にな。お前を責めに来たんじゃない。俺はただ知りたかった。あの時お前がいなくなったわけよ。
遠い昔の話よ。もう忘れたわ。動かない時間はいらないわ。
本当ですか？どうすんですよ。着陸できないじゃないですか。俺まだ18
なるようになるか。
来るんじゃなかった。
All of these clips have to do with a very difficult conflict management lesson, and that's moving on. Now, of the core themes in Bebop, this is one of the most difficult for each main character to grasp. Each character is dealing with issues from their past, and each of them struggle to move on, going about it in their own ways. So it's kind of surprising to see Faye, Spike, and Jet all struggling with the same advice that they're each trying to give each other. Now, aside from being a strong life lesson, it's also a strong business management lesson. The business world waits for no one to catch up after all.
先制攻撃よ。
Now, the lesson here is that in the business world, you cannot dwell on the past or failures for too long. Take the feedback from whatever happened and begin to think about what's next. Your competitors are already moving on without you, whether your business or even your peers competing for the next promotion. But in hotels and in many industries, we're unfortunately constantly looking backwards. Weekly strategy meetings look at the previous week's financial results compared to your competitors. Monthly budget meetings look at the previous month's results compared to forecast. Annual financial reviews look at the previous year's results, and so on and so on. Now, due to this, managers are forced to constantly re-explain the sins or successes of the past. But for many managers, looking backward takes up 70% of their time, and very little time is dedicated to planning what is next. You have to find a balance of acknowledging the past and learning from it without getting stuck in the past, or someone else will reach that destination before you. Respect the past, but create a future. It's the only part that you can change in the business world, and it's where your eventual success lies. Similarly, with managing people, this lesson really applies. If you get hung up on what your subordinates or even your peers did before in the past, maybe they made a grievous mistake or they blew up in a moment of frustration, it's really hard to continue to see the potential in them if you hold on to that moment in time. Your job as a manager is to not just watch and punish for bad behavior, it's to develop and bring out the best in them, which sometimes includes holding them accountable. But if you only dwell on what a person has already done, the mistakes they've made, and you stay in that past, versus focusing on what they could still do in the future, well, you've already passed judgment on them, and there's not much they'll be able to accomplish in that type of environment. So to recap, respect and acknowledge what happened in your employees' past, but also look towards their future potential and their future success and work towards that goal. Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody wants to be trusted when they make those mistakes to be able to get a second chance and have a clean slate. Mistakes happen. Period. Hard stop. No. Mistakes happen. So address it and move on without holding a grudge.
動かない時間はいらないわ。
So our final lesson comes from what's probably my favorite episode, Bohemian Rhapsody. And speaking of which, what's your favorite episode? I'm curious to find out, so let me know. I think episode 14 flies under the radar for a lot of people, so I'm curious to see. Anyways, let's take a look. The final lesson for this video comes from good old Chessmaster Hex. Hex was a big part of the Gate Corporation until he separated from them and ultimately hatched a long-time revenge plot on the Gate system itself using chess pieces. But upon discovering Hex in his hideout in the Jump Keep, the Bebop crew finds a man devoid of his previous ambitions and now only enjoys playing chess online, nothing more. Pure, childlike joy from the game he loves so much. So what could possibly be the lesson here? Quit your job and spend your days playing chess? I mean, hey, more power to you if you can pull it off. But the lesson here is actually surprisingly important. And it's one that on multiple occasions I've tried to instill on especially young managers who suddenly find themselves managing multiple generations in their workplace. And that's something that happens more often than you think, especially in the hotel industry. The lesson is this: everyone comes to work for a different reason. And as a manager, it's incredibly important for you to find out what that reason is, because knowing it or not knowing it could be the difference between your success or your failure. Many young gun hotshot managers moving up quickly may have their eyes set on being a GM, a CEO, or maybe even higher. But that's not true for everyone. Some people did all that stuff, and now they just want a job where they can interact with people and get medical benefits. Some people are lifelong front desk agents because they like the simple and balanced lifestyle. Some don't want the responsibility or the pressure of management. Now, I personally worked with bell persons and butlers in luxury resorts that were well past retirement, but they did the work because they enjoyed the people interaction. It fit with their flexible lifestyle, and the cash tips were good. Why not? You know, the best part was they worked hard, but the stress didn't follow them home. There was no late night calls, no frantic evening emails about next month's projections. You know, it's like they say in Costa Rica, pura vida. Work to live, not live to work. This is a crucial lesson. Discover your subordinates' reasons for working. Many young managers just assume everyone wants to or should work harder to improve themselves and get promoted just like what they want. But in doing this, they tend to push people towards things that they have no interest in actually doing. And ultimately, the employees turn on this manager who doesn't understand them or listen to them. When you find yourself in a new management role, always seek first to understand your team. Find out what motivates your team, what they want to do, why they do it, and where they want to go in the future. You may have a genius like Hex on your team who can do great work for you as long as you recognize what matters to them most. The Bebop crew saw this, and they separated the past Hex from the current Hex and supported him accordingly. And hopefully we can all find as much pleasure in the simple things, just like our friend Chessmaster Hex. So now we have learned 3 very important business lessons that are all directly applicable to today's working world, all from just a few great episodes from an anime. Now, take some time to focus on your own daily work life. Do you sometimes find yourself easily distracted by unforeseen challenges that are hard to recover from? Do you sometimes focus more on your employees' mistakes as opposed to the many great days they have? Or maybe you're frustrated that one of your employees is not nearly as ambitious or hardworking as you. These are all very real and normal things to experience in early management and in the working world in general. And I've personally experienced most of them, if not more than once. But that's part of learning. And I believe that we all have something to learn. Thank you for watching this episode of Anime School of Business. For our next episode, the dress code will be, of course, nerd casual.